almost like, because we get so out of touch with our feelings, you have to reacquaint yourself with what real feeling is and the difference when it's not emotion. And yeah, the personality keeps us from a natural relationship to our feelings, where we feel something and we naturally open to it and let it pass through us. So, but when we do, I would say when you do connect with a feeling, there's not confusion then, at least, because something true is happening. And it's not mindful, it's not mind fucking or anything. It's just pure feeling that's being, life is happening in the form of that feeling. So yeah, I think there's this sort of reconnection with what a feeling is. And you know, Ruth, you were talking about this. It's like you've been flooded with feelings too, and some of them are happy, some of them are sad, whatever. But it's the same mechanism of like, it's the same like tuning in. What is that? And opening to it. So instead of the judgment coming in, that can happen, of course, and the closing down and then contracting, you step towards it, and the more you kind of tune into it and you know what it is, you move towards it always. It's the best thing you can do in any situation. And then you've got the mind, and then you've got what the mind's needs, and the personality's needs are not to go in that direction. And one way it stops you going there is by going into thought loops and worry and all of that. And before you know it, you're out of the zone where the feeling can happen. You're in the mental realm. You're not in that. It's almost like a chamber, where a safe space where there's ease and there's heart and there's an opening to the feeling. So the personality thoughts can just pull you out of that, so they can't happen. And it's like there's feeling and there's feeling, and there's Ruth feeling, oh, I'd really like to get in touch with so and so. And that's a strong feeling. But what we were doing with you is feelings from the wound, you know. Same rules apply, but you're getting right down to the roots of the whole story, you know. So to just get there is really something. That's what I kept telling you. It's like, it's not a small thing to touch that. And it teaches you a lot, because it shows you, it shows you, oh, this is the way out, you know. And then then you get the backlash. It's like, you have to feel how bad it's been to not go there. Then all the resistance comes up that tries to stop you going back there. That's all part of the journey, you know. And it's all part of you understanding the landscape of this and what I'm saying now. You know, you have to know these things. Otherwise you get lost and you get pulled back in. So first of all, you know, this is in the natural state. This is time. And this is the fulcrum of an event happening, like, and let's call it a difficult event. Something happens when you're young. It's difficult, you know, maybe somebody hurts you, or I don't know. And that's what's happening here. And there's a response in the body mind. There's a kind of energetic charge of feeling which wants to arise and come out. And these are primal feelings. So it's like fear, sadness, or anger, or whatever. So that's step one. If we move on in time a bit, step two, if these primal feelings are felt, because we're in full feeling engagement with life, the charge of that feeling diminishes, it recedes, the event is released, and then it only exists as a memory, you know, psychological memory that can be recalled, but there's no real emotional charge to it. So it's been through its evolution, and it's risen, and it's passed, and it's complete. So that's fulfilling engagement in life in the natural state. So by contrast, let's go here next. So we're talking about when we lose the fulfilling engagement with life. So we've got the same situation, but let's just say the event is an event that becomes your wound. So that's here. So here's the event. Again, there's a response in the body mind of feelings, and there's an energetic charge again that wants to come out. And there is again a primal feeling. So maybe there's fear in it and there's anger in it. So then we go to step 2. And for whatever reason, in you, you know, it could be, for example, you've learned that I can't take too much attention, so otherwise I'll lose the laugh. So I better kind of keep this inside. I better repress it. There's all sorts of reasons that we learn not to come out with it. You know, there's fear of being told off. There's all sorts of things, but we're not really talking about all of that. Whatever the reason is, this feeling that wants to rise up through with the energetic charge is met in us with repression. So the original feeling is rejected. And then we have this situation where the primal original feeling here is the white, is pushed down, and the energetic charge around it builds, and there's this lid on of repression. And basically, through time, it becomes emotion. So what was a pure feeling that just wanted to pass through becomes an emotion. And then that you can see is like a building block of personality. There's a wound in the middle, this whole thing going on here with the lid on. And you can imagine, you know, there's others of these that build, you know, maybe around fear, or we have strategies and patterns, but this is like a building block of personality. And finally, I've just done this as a sort of overall, you know, overview of right at the center at the beginning was the wound. Then there was the primal feeling that you lost touch with. There's the personality's intent to repress that because, you know, whatever reason we talked about this is too painful. I won't be able to bear it. I shouldn't be like that. All sorts of reasonings it comes up with. And then you end up with, on the top level, the emotion. So when we're getting triggered, we're getting kind of hit in this area, you know, the emotion is being hit, and it's got this charge to it, which wants to come out in a sharp arrow, and kind of, it wants to discharge, it wants to offload that energy. So this is when, for example, we have anger repressed and somebody triggers it by whatever reason, and they get this charge from your history, all of it kind of in a one moment going on them. And obviously that doesn't feel good, and it's not really fair. And the charge is released temporarily, but it's only the emotional charge is released, and it doesn't really go away because the root of it hasn't been reached. The root of it is down here, is the feeling, the primal feeling. And so when we're talking about healing, we're talking about going this like deep dive through this. You may have to feel that, you know, there's a level where you go through that, you feel, all right, there's emotion, but you know that's not the core of it, and you don't get stuck in that. You when you can start hitting this, then there's healing, because when this is felt, you go right back to the beginning. And the more that can be felt, the more this can then, the emotion becomes defunct, really. It's not being fed anymore.
What is it that's doing the repression in step 2 there?
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? Yeah, it's something in us has become self-conscious and starts reacting to life outside, and that has got kind of rules to it, like, oh, you don't say that, or we're not too noisy, or oh, we control ourselves here, or these sort of messages come into our consciousness. They start outside of us, but they end up inside us, and they start being laws that we run by. So there's that critical moment where we move from, you have a feeling, you feel it, it's gone, to this, which is like a major different step in things, when a repression comes in. It's a good question. It's like, yeah, we don't have the consciousness to choose not to repress. We're kind of brainwashed. We're told how we're young. We don't know anything about the world. We're told how to be, and we fit in because we don't know anything else. We don't have the consciousness to say, well, I've got a feeling and I need to feel it. Fuck you. We don't have that. So we're molded by our environment, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine having it, just for me, like having a sense that, my mother couldn't handle it.
Yes. Yeah. And you can imagine you just even subliminally, but maybe also on the surface, picking that up.
Yeah.
Because we're guided by what gets us the love that we need.
Yeah.
And if we find out, oh, they don't like it when I do this, the other side of it is they like us when I don't do this, which results in, maybe, oh, if I'm quiet, I won't lose the love. If I follow this energy, this charge that's arising in me, I will lose the love. It's quite an interesting view of the personality, like this is the emotional side of the personality, I guess. We could have a few of these. We could have one for sadness, one for anger, which was originally Wuchi, one for, all sorts of things. And then we've got within here, you could go on, you could say, well, then there's strategies that you have, and there's beliefs that you have, and all of that together builds this gray area, which is the personality. Yeah.
Do we just have one wound, or don't we have or can we have many wounds from the past?
There's two steps. There's the original state, and then there's not the original state. So at some point we kind of cross that line into the repression of feeling and the loss of the original state. So it had to happen with one event, and then other events kind of just bed it in. They replicate the same setup probably, and so it just gets stronger and stronger, really. But there would have been one originally. There had to be the first one, the first time.
And then it gets triggered and triggered and triggered over and over again throughout life, right?
Yeah, that's right. And unless you address this, it will get triggered and you will carry all this. And of course, that also is it's in the psychology, but of course it's in the body too. So it's no small thing for us to carry this. And of course, to heal it is no small thing, because this timeline, we're all different ages, but it's a long time. And we get used to living in a certain way. So just the ability to conceive that you could, well, first of all, I think I was saying this last week, first of all, you got to see what's there. Like, if you don't know any of this is going on, you go through life with this in your system, and people say things, and you're triggered here and you're triggered there, and you think it's who you are. It's a result of this. So it's who you become, maybe, in the personality, but it's not who you are. So the first step is to realize, yeah, I'm not that. It's what I've become. And to have the choices, awareness on, oh, hang on a minute, that was an emotion. That was uncalled for. That person didn't really deserve that kind of hit of anger or whatever. So that's step one. So it's before you can't get to any healing until you're aware of it. But as you become more aware of it, it's almost like you've got X-ray vision, and you start to see this in you. You start to see, oh yeah, that's that emotional line going back.
Would you characterize feeling as a positive or a negative experience? Especially when we're talking about painful things.
I would say my immediate thing was like positive.
Yeah. That was my assumption. And
Yeah.
but that's a big deal right there, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
These, I'll try and broaden that. Why do I say that? First of all, because feeling is our connection to life. So, the extent to which you close down and protect yourself from difficult things is also the degree to which you're closing down your richness and full feeling engagement, obviously, with life. So even though it may be painful, it's that balance between, you can think, well, it's better, I'd rather not feel and go dead. It's like the thing when you're psychologically damaged and you have tranquilizers. It's like, okay, there's a period where that's probably necessary or can be necessary, and then after a while it's like, do you want to live your life as a zombie? There's a sort of balance to be had, and in the end I would always choose, I want to feel life. Feeling is also to do with healing as well. So even though it's painful, if you want to heal, that's the only way through and to healing. So definitely positive. Yeah. And I suppose it's weird to say that because we all know how painful feelings can be. Yeah. So I'm not in any way, sort of dismissing that. I'm saying that with full recognition of, I mean, you know a little bit of what I went through. It's like, I suppose my view on the breakdown and everything I went through was like, well, I wouldn't have missed it because it had to happen, and it's brought me, closer to the bosom of life, or however you want to put it. So therefore, I wouldn't have missed it, and that's with full kind of bowing down to the horror that I went through. Yeah.
Even though you call it a horror, you still say it's positive.
Positive horror.
Yeah.
Those words ever been put together before? Probably not.
No, never. So, but that really sums it up, and that's really helpful. I was like, because I think in the past I've been really just feeling emotion, and it's been a negative experience, and I'm like, I don't think I need to. That's not the path.
So, of course, it's not positive. It doesn't feel positive at this time. I have to say that too. What I want to say is, the further you go, you can actually have that recognition instead of in retrospect, right in the middle of it. That you can know this is fucking awful, but it's like, I ain't going anywhere. I'm staying here. I'm going to keep watching, and I'll feel what I have to feel. So that actually kind of gets stronger, and then you still got to feel what you got to feel, but there's a very different dynamic going on. That's the warrior. We're back to the warriorhood thing. Yeah. So sorry, you were saying about before you think you were touching emotion. Is that right?
Yeah. It was, kind of what I talked about before, about like feeling bad about myself, or just having like a negative outlook on things in general, and thinking, well, I'm feeling, when I'm realizing, no, a lot of that is
yes. It's an interesting and vital point, that, isn't it? Like, you think, well, I'm feeling, so it's got to be good, but feeling the emotion is not feeling the feeling. If you get that distinction.
Yeah. One of the things you said, which really I found helpful, and I don't know if this is in the book, so maybe you want to version 2 add this, is I thought really helpful, is that you said with the emotion there's no exit, where with feeling there's an exit. I don't know, that was huge for me.
Oh, there is an exit in emotion, but only when you stop stop going around in the emotion. So there's something outside of it. So I didn't mean to say that, But if you
Right.
identify with the emotion, you're not going to get out of it through the emotion.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's right. But with the feeling that there's an end point, there's a way out. Yeah.